anybody. I often thought that after Graham Birdsall died and UFO magazine closed, I still think that was the best UFO magazine there's ever been. And yes, magazines have come and gone, and there are other publications out there, but for me, there was something missing. And so in retirement, I thought, well, what do I want to do? I want to continue my research, but I want to be involved in trying to, I guess, kind of lead certainly the UK front with a positive role, carrying on Graham's work. And so I had the idea to launch the magazine. I went to the Exopolitics conference in Liverpool. I spoke with a number of UK researchers there. And I said, look, I did this idea. Would you be columnists? Would you contribute? And they all said yes. So it kind of gathered from there. And then I spent several months contacting various researchers around the world. Susan Hanson in New Zealand, very prominent. Mary Rodwell in Australia, who's one of the top people in the abduction field, experiencer. Bill Chalker, the Oz Files in Australia. Peter Robbins in the States, well known, the left at Eastgate. A.J. Javard in Brazil. Roberto Pinotti in Italy. Pia Knudsen, who's a new researcher from Denmark, Exopolitics Denmark. And a host of UK researchers to begin with. They all shared the idea that it was a good idea. And so realistically, I then set about plans to make it work. And the good news is that those plans came to fruition on June the 25th, when the first issue, it's a 96-page colour e-zine for your iPad, etc., your iPhone. It's not in print. It never will be in print because the cost factors are too prohibitive. But with effectively no overheads, it's the perfect medium now. After Graham Birdsall died, for 3.5 years, I ran a little monthly magazine called UFOmonthly.com. But then people hated to read off a computer screen. And so people would print it off or ask me to print it off, which was a bit of a pain, really. But people hated to read off the screen. But now with the advent of tablet technology and smartphones, then people are quite happy to read off the Kindle, the Kobo, the iPad, the iPhone, the smart Android phones, etc. So now that it struck me is that if you're going to do this, the time was now to launch it. So we launched on the 25th. We've got top researchers from all around the world. The first issue is free, so if you were to go to UFOTruthMagazine.com, written as one word, UFO Truth Magazine as one word, .com, you can go there and you can download the first issue for free. After that, it's going to be, in UK terms, the equivalent of £4 or $3.99. And it'll be bi-monthly. It's not a monthly, it's a bi-monthly, 6 issues a year. But so far the feedback has been tremendous, both from researchers and the readers who've downloaded it. So optimistic that it will grow, and and if ever you want to write a piece, Nick, then I'd be happy to have you as a guest contributor.
I'll be happy to do that, thanks.
No. Realistically, I know that I think you write for the magazines, is that right?
Which one, sorry?
Do you write for the magazines?
Oh, yeah. If you want anything, I'll be pleased to do something, yeah.
So, it's still an ongoing process, and I've got probably another 8 or 9 people on board since. People like Stanton Friedman, who's going to be a guest contributor, Peter Davenport with his National Reporting Centre, Robert Salas with his mission, his nukes, Minuteman missiles in '67. Ted Phillips has come on board, various people who are going to contribute as guest columnists. So hopefully, these are the top people in the world, invariably. So if anybody is interested in the subject, hopefully they will take a look and think, well, this is this is really from the horse's mouth, as it were. So, I'm optimistic that it will grow, and I guess if you ask me in a year's time, I'll be able to tell you whether it did or not.
All right, good. And I mean, based on the sort of the people who you've got on board, I'm guessing then this is going to cover the entire sort of spectrum of the UFO subject, from abductions, crashes, witness reports, the whole thing. Is that correct?
Yes, but here's the premise. There's two things that make the magazine a bit different. First of all, what it says is this is a magazine for people who believe that some, and I repeat the word some, UFO sightings do represent ET, i.e. extraterrestrial contact engaging with the Earth. That's what I personally believe, and that's based on my circumstantial evidence that I've acquired over many years of the pilots, the astronauts, cosmonauts, generals, admirals, colonels, radar operators, sonar operators, observer corps, etc., etc. For me, none of us have the flying saucer in our back garden, because that would be nice, but we haven't got it. None of us have the alien in the fridge, which would be nice, but we haven't got it. But as a police officer, I can say to you that the circumstantial evidence case is what we work on in UFO terms, for the simple reason is people get convicted of murder on a circumstantial case, sometimes even without the body, providing enough pieces of the jigsaw are there. And that's my circumstantial evidence. There are, in my opinion, enough pieces there so we can draw a circumstantial evidence conclusion, which is that there's an overwhelming ET element. It's only small. It's 3% of cases worldwide, but that 3% is very significant when you look at the numbers of reports. The other thing that makes UFO Truth Magazine considerably different to any other magazine is that I'm not in it for money, I'm in it for the passion for the subject and to try to promote it in a positive way to reach to wider audience. And what I have done for that is saying that a third of all monies raised through subscriptions, either a single issue subscription or yearly subscriptions, a third of all monies raised for this magazine will be set aside for UFO causes. And what I mean by that in the short term is it will become the funding mechanism for British ufology, because we haven't got one and we need one, to get venues, etc., to get speaker costs, etc., flights, travel costs, etc. But if in time it took off worldwide, and hence why I've got kind of columnists all around the world, English-speaking wise, Australia, New Zealand, obviously the States, Europe, etc., is basically the more people buy this magazine, the bigger that pot of money will be, because a third will be ring-fenced. Not for me. That third, what company is going to give away a third of its profits? None. But I am, because I want to do it properly. And that third, the bigger the pot, means that if, say, MUFON wanted to do a forensic test on an animal mutilation case in the Midwest, and needed some funds, well, if the money is there, they can have a grant towards it or can pay for it. Do you see what I mean? So that's the idea. The idea is there that it's not just for me, it's there for the subject. If you had, for example, 10,000 people worldwide, which is actually a snip, a drop in the ocean, that would generate something like £65,000 for this fund. Well, we're not all going to live up in the Ritz in the UK and spend 65 grand. So there's a lot of money that could be spent to help people around the world doing active research, and that's what I'm going to do. And the other thing that I also do as well, if you're a serious researcher, then I'll give you a free ad for conferences and things like that, because I don't want the revenue of 300 quid for to promote a conference. We shouldn't. We should be trying to help each other and promote the subject ourselves.
Okay. So this is, I guess, this is as much about not just putting a magazine out, but actually helping the field in return as well, which is obviously a good thing. And I mean, unfortunately, I don't get back to Britain as much as I'd like to, but I have noticed on the last few times I've been back, the scene itself seems to be quite fragmented, but it seems to me that you're one of the sort of the few people who's actually thought about how to get that scene back together and revived and actually achieved things, you know what I mean?
Well, I hope that's how I'm seen. Yes, I am trying to kind of take a lead because everybody says that should contact with another intelligent civilization ever happen, hypothetically, that it will be the greatest leap in mankind's history. Well, I already think that's happened, and I hope that you do too, but I think that's already happened, and I'm trying to just get the word out that says, look, the media have got this thing sewn up. You know, the media have painted ufologists out for the last 60 years as complete idiots most of the time, and the media bias is tremendous. So we kind of, we either try to engage with the media in the mainstream and try to make inroads, or, as some researchers do, turn their back on the media and just do whatever they want to do on their own volition. Now, I take the view that, because I quite like working in the media, and it's something I do want to do more, that basically we have to engage the mainstream media, but we have to do it in a constructive way. I mean, for example, the last batch of UK files was released a couple of weeks ago, and as usual, every 6 months there's a media frenzy to put out the reports. Well, the batches of, it's the last batch of the MOD files before they close the desk. I mean, they said in 2009 that they're pulling the desk because of financial cutbacks and they're saving £55,000. Well, the real reason, in my opinion, that they closed was because they were bogged down in freedom of information requests all about UFOs. And with a staff of one, he was bogged down and he couldn't do it. For me, the British release of files has been nothing more than a joke. Historically, it's a great collection to have, but most of it is very mundane, low-level correspondence, and certainly don't believe that they released the best stuff. And one of the things that it, by implication, it meant was that in 2009, much in the same way that the US Air Force wanted to sign off on Blue Book with the Condon Committee report that sort of said we're not involved in that anymore because there's nothing to it, and everybody knows that that was a whitewash. I think it was a very similar thing here. This is an attempt by the British government to just draw a line under the subject because it's a pain in the arse to them, and let's close our public relations office because we weren't really doing much. But here's the thing. By doing that, was there a structured body to replace that reporting desk? And the answer was no. So what you have then is a very fragmented approach to citing reports. Who do you report to? Now, for a while, it's just been a joke, and various sites do their own. But what we really need to do is coordinate that in a structured way, because the reports don't stop. So again, with the launch of the magazine, and I've had to wait until I retired to do this because of the constraints that I was under, when the magazine launched on the 25th of June, I also created and launched the United Kingdom UFO Files Reporting Centre. So now there is a sighting report form, so if anybody is out there, spread the word. And this is an idea to bring all the UFO sighting agencies and various websites to glean all the information, to put it all in one, so we can start to create a clearer picture of what's going on in our skies. And the reason why I've done that is because, one, we need to, because if the media, now the MOD are out of it, who are they going to go to for facts and figures? Well, I'm going to try to create the media vacuum that says, well, you should really be coming to the UK UFO Reporting Centre for your facts and figures. Now, I suspect that the media won't come to us initially, but they may have to in time if we do the job properly.
Okay. All right, good. Well, we're at the 1 hour mark, and so I just wanted to let the audience